Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to MBNK News. I am Veronique Lawson for this special news report edition. One of MBN mission is to deliver factual and independent news reporting each month, focusing on the important story that we deem worth giving over, as we contrast them with the original truth, the kingdom truth. Our aim is continue to bring to you the latest global news on hope that you are as eager as we are to keep up with the what's happening, with the most impactful and current news story on the latest global headlines. This month, editor picks are as following. So sit down and let's dive right in. Kickstarting with the national breaking news coverage. Hot topic on agenda are ongoing federal government shutdown, peace treaty in the Middle East and Asia, trade deal, bombshell, a major gambling ring that led to the arrest of numerous people, including the NBA star, and also we know that the NFL is out for trouble. The indictment of high-ranking government official and much more. We are also witnessing the storm Melissa that is going around. Thus, the U.S. government shut down since October 1st, after President Trump and Congressional Republicans were unable to avert a lapse in federal funding. This shutdown causes a financial follow walker. Up to this date, this government shutdown is the second largest federal funding lapse in U.S. history. What we are witnessing is a massive dismantling of the puppet regime as we know it. I know that the lamestream media will not tell you that, but here at MBNK News, as we say, we contrast them. We contrast the woolly fact with the original truth. This is the dismantling of the puppet regime as we know it. Please, let's turn our attention to the text. Thank you.
Are meeting with President Trump today to talk shutdown strategy as the funding standoff hits the 3-week mark.
Democrats are rejecting a GOP plan to begin paying federal workers who remain on the job. Doug Luzader joining us now live from Washington with the latest developments on this. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. Both sides are warning of disaster, but one off-ramp after another is failing here on Capitol Hill.
Behind the White House, demolition, clearing the way for President Trump's new ballroom project. But in front, look for solid GOP unity today on the shutdown.
We're hoping the Democrats become much less deranged and that we will get the vote pretty soon. And I hear they're starting to feel that way, too. They're starting to feel like they really have to do what's right for the country.
Donald Trump definitively needs to get involved. He needs to get off the sidelines.
The Democratic leader in the House says the president needs to give permission for Republicans to cut a deal to eventually reopen the government. Republicans say they have offered them, including the latest option, which would pay federal workers who are still on the job despite missing paychecks. And the Senate Majority Leader says he will talk about what Democrats want, more subsidies for Obamacare, if the government reopens.
I'm happy to have the conversation about the unaffordability of Obamacare and what we might be able to do to fix that. But you can't do that while the government is being held hostage.
But Democrats are holding their lines, and there may not be much support for stopgap efforts to pay some federal workers.
It's not legislation that I support because it appears to be more like a political ploy to pick and choose.
Yesterday, Democrats rejected the Republican bill to temporarily reopen the government at current spending levels. Back to you guys.
All right, we will continue watching to see what happens day by day. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug, and also Fox News 9 for that report. And the question that remains is, do we, the people, really need a government after all? I'm asking you that question. What would the founding father respond to that? You need to ponder upon that and see whether we truly need all those bunch of people in Washington, D.C. who would not even know what they're doing. Next, talking about peace in the Middle East and Asia trade deal. October 12th is marked by the U.S. President Donald Trump arriving in Israel to begin a historic visit to the Middle East. The president's trip ended in Egypt for the 2025 Middle East Peace Summit. which focused on the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas and resulting to the peace treaty signature. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is now in the second week as both sides hand over hostage and return to the bodies of those captured during the conflict. Additionally, President Trump spent a week-long in Asia visit where he helped broker a historic peace deal and advance U.S. trade talks. This is genius geopolitics. President Trump didn't just make a deal. He flipped the global supply chain by moving rare earth control from China to the U.S. allies like Malaysia and Australia. He secured America's technology future. That is not chaos. It is strategy. While others talk climate, Trump builds economic empires that guarantee strength, independence, and unmatched leverage worldwide. This is a restructuring of a global order and a genius move from President Trump. Let's turn our attention to both reports, that both in Israel and also Asia. Thank you.
Departs on what is likely to be his victory lap.
Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before.
Ahead, a rare address by U.S. leader to Israel's parliament and an unprecedented summit of world leaders in Egypt, at which there'll be a formal signing ceremony for the 20-point plan.
I think they're all tired of fighting, and this really gives the whole Middle East. This is beyond Gaza. Gaza is very important, but this is beyond Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East, and it is a beautiful thing.
Senior advisors Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are already in Israel,
working with President Trump,
and they are largely credited with drawing up the proposal.
That's right. Thank you, President Trump.
The plan goes far beyond the establishment of an immediate ceasefire. In it, the Trump administration acknowledges the right of Palestinian return to Gaza, and for the first time, it acknowledges that space must be created for the establishment of a Palestinian state. All of this may not have been possible without a massive Israeli diplomatic blunder, a failed attack on Hamas leaders in Doha. President Trump was infuriated with the action and made the Israeli Prime Minister formally apologize to his Qatari counterpart in a telephone call from the White House. A crucial factor, too, was a meeting that President Trump held with Arab and Muslim leaders on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly last month, eliciting wider support from Muslim states, including Pakistan, Turkey, and Indonesia.
They were terrific, but all of the countries were great. Indonesia was great. Jordan was great. They were all great. Everybody wants this deal to happen.
Ahead is the task of stabilizing a Gaza that's been ravaged by war. It's a fragile process, but for the first time, one in which the Trump administration envisages not just a beginning, but also an end, a globally recognized state for the Palestinian people. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, at the White House.
Asia for the first stop of his week-long Asia tour.
And the peacemaker-in-chief hit the ground running, already overseeing the signing of the historic peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand.
Lucas Tomlinson is live in Malaysia following the president. Joins us now. Good morning, Lucas.
Morning, Lucas.
Well, good morning, guys, and good morning, Rachel. President Trump beginning his three-nation Asian swing, really four if you want to include Qatar, when President Trump made a brief stop for fuel and the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar came aboard Air Force One. But let's get to the itinerary. As you just said, President Trump is here in Malaysia today and just presided over a formal peace accord ending the conflict between Cambodia and Thailand. He heads to Japan tomorrow to meet Japan's new conservative Prime Minister, the first female leader of Japan, who loves heavy metal, and Margaret Thatcher. Then it's off to South Korea Wednesday. Here was President Trump earlier here in Malaysia.
Today's signing represents just one of 8 conflicts that we've ended in 8 months of the Trump presidency. I'm very honored to have done it. We saved millions of lives. I'm here on a mission of friendship and goodwill, and to deepen our ties of commerce, to strengthen our common security, and to really promote strongly stability, prosperity, and peace for all of the countries in this room and long beyond this room.
Now, here are the details of the accord bringing peace to neighboring Southeast Asian nations. Thailand releases 18 Cambodian soldiers, the removal of heavy weapons from the border region. Malaysian troops will ensure the fighting does not restart. Now, here's a list of the conflicts ended in Trump's second term. Israel and Hamas after the living hostages were released. Israel and Iran, Pakistan and India, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, Thailand and Cambodia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Egypt and Ethiopia, Serbia and Kosovo. Now, there's already been at least one viral moment shortly after the president's arrival here in Malaysia, in a scene reminiscent of his arrival in the Middle East in May, Trump doing his famous dance with the locals, and everybody seemed to be having a good time. Now, hanging over this visit to Asia, things get serious. The expected meeting between President Trump and the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, in South Korea. It's the first face-to-face meeting between global superpowers. Trade and tariffs will be on the agenda, of course, and rare earth minerals. Also, America's soybeans. Last year, China purchased $13 billion worth of American soybeans. This year, zero. Now, in the background, over the past few days, including today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trump's top trade rep, Jamieson Greer, have been meeting with their Chinese counterparts here in Malaysia. China's leader is not here, of course, Xi Jinping, but those meetings are going on behind the scenes. We should have an update on those talks later this morning, guys.
Lucas.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you so much. This is amazing, of course. President Trump, by the way, about the peace deals that he's done all over the place. He said, I shouldn't say it's a hobby because it's so much more serious than a hobby. But it's something that I'm really good at, and it's something I love to do. And then while he's at it, he takes a jab at the UN, who he's already mad at because they almost caused him to get injured on that escalator up when they stopped it. Somebody did something. And let me tell you, I talked to him after. He was very angry about that. So here's what he says about the UN. But I mean, the UN has such great potential. Wish they could do it, but they didn't get involved with us at all. We just did the deal, reported the deal, and everyone was amazed. So that's what you're getting out of him. I have to tell you guys, he's basically saying we don't need the UN. I got this. And I just keep thinking about him after, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe he should just get into divorce mediation because the kind of mediation and
he has experience on all ends.
On all ends of it. Maybe he'll be the next divorce judge, television show.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it would be a great reality.
It would be a great reality show.
Well, and on a serious note, as we look at the shot of kind of the class photo, as they say, and these are all the Asian nations, right? This is the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations. But all of these countries have seen an encroachment of China, a really building up of China in the South China Sea. And so they're looking not to the UN, they're looking to one man to try and align with. And that's why you're seeing Japan, South Korea. These are important stops, particularly in Japan, where the new first female prime minister, Sanae Takaichi, who is this heavy metal drummer, that is being compared to Sanae Takaichi.
I'm so impressed. I've actually never been more impressed with you.
But, this dance right here, this was the moment that stood out for me. I mean, that is how he is received around the world. Lest we forget how far we've come when the previous president had a musical dance. He didn't even have to travel. It was just on the White House lawn. And there, it just froze. Completely froze. I mean, it paints a contrast that had Biden stayed in and won, he would be over there at a time when, while you can, laugh at this comparison and contrast, it's also such a serious thing. And President Trump, by the way, Lucas was talking about the rescuing soybean farmers. They're really hurting. On Air Force One, on the way over, he talked about what happens if, for some reason, he can't reach a deal with China. Listen to this.
Will you discuss purchases of Russian oil with Xi Jinping? Are you worried about the Chinese?
I may be discussing it, but China's. I don't know. You probably saw it today. China's cutting back very substantially on the purchase of Russia oil, and India's cutting back completely. And we've done sanctions. Thank you very much, everybody. By the way, very, very respectful. I appreciate it.
Mr. President, can you talk about what you hope to walk away from with the meeting with President
China?
Xi? Yes. What are you hoping to walk away?
I think a complete deal. I want our farmers to be taken care of, and he wants things also. We're going to be talking about fentanyl, of course. Fentanyl's killing A lot of people. A lot of people. It comes from China. And we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about a lot of things. I think we have a really good chance of making a very comprehensive deal.
Wow, Charlie, that was a really important point stuck in there. He's getting the Chinese to stop buying Russian oil. Yeah. That is huge. So first, the first thing he was trying to do with all the Ukraine war situation, China aligning with Russia, we brought them together in that war. And then in the peace deal, I think President Trump was trying to bring Russia in, and that's not working. So now he's like, all right, I'll separate China from Russia because he has the economic power and strength to do that. Because I think Xi Jinping knows he's weaker than ever, and President Trump will do anything he has to do to win, and they believe it.
Yeah, and part of, I think, President Trump's diplomacy has always been a recognition that America's economic power is even more powerful than our military power. And he's not afraid to use it. And, of course, all of this happens at a time where there are rumors swirling around, real concerns about Xi Jinping's grip on power in China, real questions about whether or not, because obviously China has all kinds of problems that we don't know a lot about just because it's a pretty closed-off society, but they have real problems on their hands, like generational problems on their hands. And you know that Trump recognizes all of that and recognizes that he can use this moment where Xi Jinping faces these problems to our advantage, to America's advantage, to the advantage of the world, whether it is dealing with Russia and breaking up that alliance, or dealing with fentanyl, or dealing with trade. And Trump is going to take advantage of every bit of that.
And every time he takes a trip like this, people are reminded, who do you want representing you in these trade deals? Especially. And boy, just think about Kamala Harris there. And by the way, I love the dancing. Thank you for bringing back that old footage. I will do any story that brings back that old footage of Joe Biden. But the footage of President Trump, he's having so much fun.
Thank you very much, Ejazaria and Fox News, and welcome back, you people. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate those two reports. And then, yes, so we don't need the UN. Let me voice it again better than my president. We truly don't need the UN ruling the people in this war. And also the fact that we are witnessing also a rebirth of the American empire. Next, equally important to the news, FBI has uncovered one of the biggest corruption scandals in American sport. This major gambling ring involved NBA coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, led to arrest of numerous people. Portland Trail Blazer coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and former Cleveland Cavalier player and assistant coach Damon Jones have been arrested as part of a pair of wide-ranging investigations related to the illegal sport, betting, and rigged poker games backed by the mafia. Authorities announced Thursday a total of 34 people were arrested as a result of year-long investigation covering 11 states and involving tens of millions of dollars, FBI Director Kash Patel said. In addition, law enforcement officials said the multiple charge involved 4 mafia families and an organized crime network, with Patel saying of the money involving in, and I quote, the fraud is mind-blogging. Let's turn our attention to this tale.
NBA. World's biggest basketball league is facing one of the most explosive scandals in modern sports history. In a massive FBI crackdown, over 30 people have been arrested for illegal betting, match fixing, and money laundering. And that isn't about small-time gamblers or underground hustlers. We are talking NBA stars, coaches, and even members of the New York Mafia. The result, a league in crisis and a global fan base in shock. A link to LA Lakers superstar LeBron James is emerging. A political war between the FBI and the basketball community is escalating. Donald Trump's name is being dragged into the mess. and the NBA's credibility, built over decades, is now under siege. Let's start with the names shaking the league. Current NBA player Terry Rozier, Portland Trailblazer coach Chauncey Billups, and former NBA player Damon Jones all have been arrested in connection with the FBI's sting operation. But what the FBI uncovered goes far beyond gambling slips and shady bets. This is a web of organized crime, inside leaks, and betrayal at the heart of professional sport. According to the FBI report, Terry Rozier allegedly faked an injury in early 2023. He walked off after just 10 minutes into a game, something he had told associates in advance. That injury was no accident. It was part of a betting operation worth $200,000 placed against his team. In simple terms, he wasn't playing for the scoreboard. He was playing for the payout. And if that wasn't cinematic enough, what comes next feels ripped straight from a Hollywood crime thriller. Investigators say, yes, the NBA Finals MVP was allegedly involved in rigged underground poker games. This was backed by New York's most dangerous mafia families. They lured high rollers into private games, then used X-ray poker tables, pre-marked cards, and insider dealers to scam players out of millions of dollars. Fraud, deception, criminal engineering. And then came the LeBron James twist that shook the entire NBA. According to multiple reports, FBI indictment documents mention a link between the operation and Lakers star LeBron James through his longtime associate Damon Jones. Jones, who had friendly relations with James during the 2022-23 season, allegedly leaked confidential team information to gamblers. The documents even cite a specific Lakers game where insider data about injuries and player minutes were used to place high-value bets. Now let's be clear. LeBron James himself hasn't been accused of wrongdoing. But when your name, your brand, is even mentioned in an FBI probe this big, the tremors are impossible to ignore. And those tremors, they have turned into a political earthquake. Because this scandal has now pulled in Donald Trump, anchors, and the FBI itself. The spark came from Stephen A. Smith, who accused Trump of coming after the NBA.
Don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list. Because when you've got all these protests that have been going out there and people have been protesting against him and what have you, this man is coming.
The comment went viral, and the FBI Director Kash Patel didn't hold back.
I decide which arrests to conduct and which not to conduct. That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history. And I live most of my time in Washington, D.C.
His fiery response split the internet, and what started as sports investigation has now become a culture war about truth, politics, and accountability. Yes, Trump has had a history of weaponizing sports narratives. From NFL kneeling protests to celebrity athletes speaking out, he has always seen sports as a stage for political dominance. So when arrests suddenly hit high-profile athletes and NBA figures, the backlash was inevitable. But let's not forget the evidence is hard-hitting and the FBI's findings are clear. The NBA now stands on the edge of its biggest credibility crisis since 2007, when a referee was caught fixing games for betting profits. Back then, it was one referee. This time, it's players, coaches, and organized crime families. This scandal doesn't just threaten reputation. It threatens the very soul of professional basketball. Because sport is supposed to be built on fair play, trust, and integrity. And if the icons are dragging into mud, what's left for the fans?
Indeed. This report from Rufa Ramani of First Post News says it all. What a best time to be alive, witnessing the draining of swamp. is going to be in every area of life. And next, we're going to be witnessing the spiritual part also. So I hope that you are secure in your relationship with God, the Creator Himself. Thank you. Last but not least, indictment of high-ranking governmental official. John Bolton, President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, was indicted by a federal grand jury in Maryland on October 16 for mishandling classified national defense information obtained during his tenure in the first Trump administration. He became the third prominent critic and perceived opponent of President Trump to be indicted. Similarly, New York Attorney General Letitia James appeared in court for the first time after her indictment of misrepresenting a property investment to get more favorable loans. She faces one count of bank fraud and one count of making false statements to the financial institution, both of which carry a maximum of 30 years in prison. When asked on Friday during hearing before a federal court in Norfolk, Virginia, she pled not guilty to both counts. Her trial is set to begin on January 26th. Let's keep an eye on that, and I trust that they will find more to come. Now,
hey everyone, and welcome back to MBN. We are diving into some intriguing global headlines. So, let's jump right into the next news story. Remember, it's important to stay informed and engaged in global affairs. So, let's stay connected and keep each other in the loop about what's happening around the world. Again, don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more intriguing content coming up next.
welcome back. Now, let's turn our attention to European, Middle East, and Asia news coverage by our local news reporter correspondent, Victoria.
We'll begin with Europe. Protests erupted across Europe as activists rallied against Israel's interception of the Gaza-bound flotilla. Demonstrators condemned the blockade and demanded humanitarian aid reach Gaza. Police clashed with protesters in multiple cities, though most demonstrations remain peaceful. Let us see.
Global outrage erupted after Israel intercepted the Gaza aid flotilla aimed at breaking the long-standing Israeli blockade and bringing humanitarian aid to the war-ravaged enclave. Israel's foreign ministry dismissed the mission as provocation, saying that various countries had offered to deliver the aid the boats were carrying. Israel has continuously faced widespread criticism on how much aid it lets into Gaza and how it distributes it. In Paris, a protest against the French government and budget cuts transitioned into a demonstration for Gaza, with more than 1,000 protesters gathering in Place de la République.
Ces militants et militantes aient été arrêtés dans les eaux internationales. C'est totalement illégal du point de vue du droit international.
Demonstrations were also held in several cities in Italy. In Milan, 20,000 people marched through the city centre, and in Rome, at least 10,000 people gathered at the Colosseum. The protesters demanded the release of the Italian activists who were part of the flotilla and urged the government to place more pressure onto Israel.
Praticamente un popolo che manifesta per un diritto alla vita di bambini, di donne che tutti i giorni muoiono massacrati sotto le macerie, perché la guerra si fa con due eserciti. Lì c'è un esercito solo e c'è della gente affamata che scappa dalle bombe. Cioè, chiamare guerra a sta cosa è aberrante.
Protests also took place in other major cities in Europe, including in Barcelona, Geneva, Brussels, Istanbul and London, as well as worldwide in Sydney, Buenos Aires, Mexico City, New York and Kuala Lumpur.
Well, if you're already planning your next Euro break, be prepared to give up a whole lot more personal information on arrival, as passport stamps will be phased out, and instead, for non-EU citizens wanting a short stay, biometric border checks will be put in place each and every time they enter and leave. Let us see.
Break, be prepared to give up a whole lot more personal information on arrival.
The rules are changing for the Schengen area. 29 countries within Europe that include France, Greece, Italy, Switzerland and Spain, usually popular with Aussie tourists. From next Sunday, passport stamps will be phased out. Instead, non-EU citizens wanting a short stay will have biometric border checks each and every time they enter and leave. That includes facial recognition and fingerprint scans and a series of questions about your travel. The data will be kept on a digital record for 3 years, with future travel only requiring either a fingerprint or photo. Australia's Smart Traveller is warning there could be delays as the system rolls out, although it is designed to make the process quicker in coming years.
Next, Hungary. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has ruled out adopting the euro, arguing that the European Union is disintegrating and warning against binding Hungary's future to the bloc. In an interview with Economics, Orban also called for lower interest rates to boost growth ahead of the 2026 parliamentary elections, where his government faces mounting pressure from opposition leader Peter Mega. Let us see.
Alkotási Bizottság összegző módosító javaslatát P/per 10.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has once again ruled out adopting the euro, citing concerns over the European Union's stability. His remarks come ahead of the 2026 parliamentary elections, where the opposition is gaining ground amid a cost of living crisis. Speaking to economic news site MBN&x, Orban emphasized Hungary shouldn't bind its fate closer to the European Union, and the introduction of the euro would be the strongest bond. He framed euro adoption as a risk, arguing Hungary must maintain economic independence. Orban's stance contrasts sharply with opposition leader Peter Magyar, who has pledged to unfreeze EU funds suspended due to rule of law concerns and push Hungary closer to the euro. The policy divide sets up a central economic issue ahead of elections scheduled for spring 2026. On monetary policy, Orban signalled support for lower interest rates to stimulate growth.
Kudos to him for keeping his nation's sovereignty. Now, moving on to the UK, protests have been held in London over the introduction of digital identification by the Starmer government. The ID will be needed in order to live and work in the UK and has received widespread backlash. Political parties have said they do not support the idea, with the Conservative Party labeling the ID as a gimmick. Let us see.
Of digital identification. The ID will be needed in order to live and work in the UK.
Well, thousands have actually taken part in this through central London this afternoon, culminating here at Downing Street, where they wanted to make the point right outside the seat of power. And what's interesting about the people gathered here today is the fact that there's so many people that you wouldn't really expect to be at a protest ordinarily, people who just feel very strongly that they feel this is taking society in the wrong direction. They very much think that these digital ID cards are the wrong way to go. They say it's a risk to their security and to their privacy, and they say they will hold protests like this until these ideas are scrapped. Well, the government's insisted that they're going to make people's lives easier if they're introduced in 2029, that it'll be an app on your smartphone, a bit like the NHS app that many people have got, and it will give people access to some of the public services and make life easier, and also to tackle illegal migration as well by proving people's right to work. But these proposals proposals have been criticised by a lot of people who say this is like a digitisation of personal information. It raises some questions, as I say, about where this data and these details go. Well, I've been talking to some people here about what they think. Let's hear what some of the protesters have to say about this idea.
We want our freedom. We need to keep control of our sovereignty. End of. You start down this route and then it just goes on. Yeah?
I'm born here. I live here. I've got an address here. I pay council tax here.
So you just don't think it's necessary?
Nobody wants to be chipped and pinned and corralled and computerised and controlled by the government, which is what this is all about. Digital ID. It's not about keeping immigration down. You don't need... The Navy can do that. The law can do that. It's about controlling us.
Well, it's not just members of the public unhappy at these plans. Political parties have also said they don't support them. The Conservative Party said this is a gimmick and it won't stop the boats. Nigel Farage said he'd oppose the idea. And the Lib Dems say they wouldn't support people being made to turn over their private data. But certainly a very strong feeling here in London. They say they won't stop until these plans are thrown out.
Well, in response to British Prime Minister's digital ID Orwellian command, some British decided to put a video together to show what they are planning to go ahead with. Let us watch the video.
I don't have one. I don't have a smartphone.
Can I get another pint, please?
Sorry, sir. Your Brit card says you've exceeded your alcohol quota for this week.
Sorry, sir, your Brit card says you've already flown twice this year. We're having to restrict passengers with higher than average emissions profiles.
Sorry, I'm afraid your funds have been temporarily frozen. Your recent social media post did not align with the government's narrative.
Sorry, I'm afraid your Brit card says you cannot purchase any more meat this week as part of our commitment to achieving net zero.
I've just logged in using my Brit card and it's saying I've already had 3 hours of internet today and it's locked me out.
Continuing in the UK, and the royal family now. Prince Andrew has announced that he's giving up his title, including the Duke of York. However, he will remain a prince, having been born to son of Elizabeth II. And it follows increasing pressure after more reports emerge as his relationship with pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with an alleged Chinese spy. Let's just see.
At 7 o'clock, and Prince Andrew has announced that he is relinquishing his royal titles. He says accusations about him have become a distraction from the royal family. In a statement, Prince Andrew wrote, "In discussion with the King and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and country first. I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. With His Majesty's agreement, we feel I must now go a step further. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honors which have been conferred upon me. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me." That statement coming into us from Prince Andrew.
Now moving on to France. Nicolas Sarkozy has become the first French ex-president to go to jail as he starts a 5-year sentence for conspiring to fund his election campaign with money from late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Sarkozy, who was president from 2007 to 12, has appealed against his jail term at La Santé prison. Let us hear the tale.
The former president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, has arrived at La Santé prison in Paris, where he'll serve a 5-year sentence for conspiring to raise election funds from Libya. Mr. Sarkozy, who was the president of France between 2007 and 2012, left his home alongside his wife, Carla Bruni, and was seen waving at his supporters as he was driven to the prison. He's consistently denied wrongdoing and is appealing. The former head of state, who's 70, will be placed in the isolation section of the prison.
Nothing to say here. Now, let us move back again to the UK and with King Charles, who went to travel to Rome to pray with Pope Leo. This is the first time the Supreme Governor of the Church of England has prayed with the head of the Catholic Church since before the Reformation. And this marks the first British monarch in 500 years to publicly join in prayer with a pope. Let us see.
As Pope Leo XIV and the Most Reverend Stephen Cottrell join King Charles III and Queen Camilla in front of the altar in the Sistine Chapel, we begin the midday prayer.
Nothing to say here either. Now, Sanae Takahashi has become Japan's first female prime minister after meeting with Emperor Naruhito. The upper and lower houses of parliament appointed the Liberal Democratic Party leader after she unexpectedly won a majority in first round of voting in the earlier this month. Let us see.
And where the parliament has elected the country's first female prime minister. Sanae Takaishi took over as head of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party after the LDP lost its majority in the July election. The party is now teaming up with the smaller right-wing Japan Innovation Party to form a minority government. Takaishi is seen as a hardline conservative who supports traditional gender roles as well as a hawkish foreign policy.
Now, from Japan across the pond to Australia, that has banned social media platforms for under 16 years old, and for a very good and very solid reason. Let us listen to it.
Not be able to have accounts on YouTube. They will also not be able to have accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, X, amongst other platforms. We want Australian parents and families to know that we've got your back.
Well, you heard them well. Australia is trying to protect the family by implementing this social ban on social media platforms. This is all that got time for today. Back to you, Veronique. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for that extensive Asia, Middle East, and Europe global headlines covering. That's beautiful. We're actually witnessing a dismantling of the old guards and so that true crucifix. I'm so pleased to see what is happening also in Australia and Japan with the Prime Minister, the lady. There's a lot of stuff happening fully. So stay tuned for more news and analysis right after this break.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to MBN. We are diving into some intriguing global headlines. So, let's jump right into the next news story. Remember, it's important to stay informed and engaged in global affairs. So, let's stay connected and keep each other in the loop about what's happening around the world. Again, don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more intriguing content coming up next.
Welcome back. It's great staying up to date with the latest development. And as usual, we would like always to close our morning news with health. So let us turn our attention now from our health news reporter, Aida.
Thank you, Veronique. And to start with our health news, the first news says that the health insurance are going to go up this year. Let us see the news.
Premiums could rise twice as much as inflation next year. The consulting firm Mercer expects employer-sponsored plans to jump between 6 and 7%. That means individuals would pay on average $2,400 for the year, which is about $150 more than in 2025. Here to break it all down is CBS News Money Watch Associate Managing Editor Amy Peakey, who reported on this. Amy, You write that demand on GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic are part of the reason for this. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason for the increase is an increased use of expensive new treatments, and GLP-1 drugs are part of that. They're new, more people want them, there's a lot of demand for them, but they're expensive. And so, that's adding to insurance plans' cost. There are other treatments too that are new and expensive, but save lives, like new oncology treatments, and that's also increasing the cost of insurance. So all of that together, plus an aging worker population, means that it's just more expensive to insure people today than it was last year or the year before. And so you're seeing this increase that's, twice the rate of inflation. It's up about 6 to 7% for 2026. Inflation right now is about 2.93%.
And so you mentioned the aging workforce. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just demographics of the U.S. I mean, of course, you have the baby boomer generation, but once you hit 65, you can go into Medicare. So then you're not covered by your employer. But, in general, the American workforce is getting older. You've got millennials are getting older, Gen X is getting older. And, when you get older, you tend to use medical services more. So that's just putting more demand on insurance as well. And that, unfortunately, that's not going to change. That's sort of the way the U.S. is going right now. So that the increased use of higher cost medications and treatments, all that together means, Mercer told me, they don't think these price pressures are going to ease anytime soon.
And so could costs rise to the point where people just can't simply afford coverage anymore?
Well, one thing to point out, this is employer-based insurance, and your employer typically pays most of that insurance. So Mercer told me that the employer is actually probably going to face costs of about $18,000 next year. So, as a single person, if you only have coverage for yourself, so about $2,400 next year, your employer is picking up most of that. So what you're seeing is it is a big cost pressure for employers. And what you're seeing is employers are saying, all right, we don't want to put too much of a burden on our employees. How can we change this? So what you will see next year, look at your plans very closely when open enrollment starts, is you might see plans with bigger deductibles, bigger copays, means that you're paying more out of pocket. So it's not only what you're paying out of your paycheck for your premium, but it's also when you go to the doctor, you might have a higher copay, you might have a bigger deductible. So you will be feeling that as well. Generally people want to be insured, and employer-based insurance covers about 60% of the U.S. population. It's a lot of Americans. Given that it's subsidized, they probably won't give that up.
Important reporting. Amy Peakey, thank you.
Well, we were used to use telehealth during the pandemic, and it was a service that we really like. But do you know that the Medicare is going to end coverage for telehealth? Let us see the news.
Will end coverage for most telehealth appointments. Now, that's an extra 6 months from the original cutoff date of April 1st.
And this is according to the Department of Health and Human Services. And as KCRG TV9's Emily Schrod shows us, one Eastern Iowa provider says this change could cause a domino effect.
For more than 20 years, Suzanne Bartlett Hackenmiller has served Iowans as an OBGYN. She says she started offering telehealth as an option for patients back in 2018.
As COVID came along in 2020, so many medical appointments had to be switched to telehealth that it became much more mainstream.
While many of her patients are based in the Waterloo area, Bartlett Hackenmiller says because of telehealth, she has patients all over the state. But with Medicare no longer covering most telehealth visits starting in October, she says soon that may not be the case.
I see telehealth patients typically 3 days a week out of 5. So that would be a big change for me and would limit my patients' ability to receive the kind of niche services that I'm able to provide for them.
Jeff Kelbach, aging specialist with Johnson County Social Services, says the end of coverage will have a big impact on the aging community, not only in rural areas, but even in bigger cities as well.
Transportation can really be a huge issue for individuals. So this is going to put a strain on individuals and trying to figure out how to get to these appointments, and oftentimes out of town.
Bartlett Hackenmiller says with more and more providers leaving the state, telehealth is important now more than ever.
It just seems that we should make use of the solutions that are already proven to be effective for both providing excellent patient care and retaining physicians.
While a small amount of Bartlett-Hackenmiller's patients rely on Medicare to cover the cost of telehealth visits.
When Medicare makes a change, private insurers often follow suit. And so this could be a change that affects everyone sooner than later, and probably, frankly, sooner.
Emily Sherrod, KCRG TV9 News.
November is coming, and with that it comes new enrollment for your insurance. So do you know what you need to know in order to pick the right insurance for you? Let us see the news.
Of the millions of Americans who get health insurance from your job, it is time to check your mailbox. This morning's Money Watch looks at this year's open enrollment period. It is when you choose your benefits for next year, and there is always a lot to think about. So we've got CBS News business analyst Jill Setchinger here with the information you need to make the right choices. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so what should people consider when they're determining the best insurance plan, and does it make sense after you've already done it last year to look again and do something different?
Absolutely. I know our first inclination, check the box, just do what I did last year. But these plans change from year to year. It may be that you got a new doctor or your doctor is no longer in your network. A drug that has been prescribed and covered, that may have fallen in or out of your particular plan. You've got to look at all of the plans available. Make sure this is where you can actually make a difference. Remember, we're talking about premium increases of 6 or 7%. It's about twice the rate of inflation. Spending some time with these forms, which are so boring. I know your eyes are glazing over.
No, but it's important.
It can save you a lot of money next year.
So let's talk about these high deductible insurance plans that a lot of companies are offering, which have these lower annual premiums. So how do they work, and how should people use them?
Okay, they're really interesting. It used to be that people would say, oh, if I'm young and healthy, this is great. Lower premiums, I have a higher deductible. But more and more employees and more companies are offering these because they're paired with something called a health savings account. Now, these are triple tax advantage, meaning the money that goes into that health savings account, there's no tax on it. The money that is in that health savings account, no tax. When you take it out to pay for any health expenses, either soon or decades in the future, no tax. So it allows you to save money on a tax-efficient basis, and that'll pay for those premiums or any other costs down the line. It's not locked into your current plan. You can take it with you.
Yeah, I love those. All right, let's talk about open enrollment for Medicare. If you are age 65, what do you need to know about your health care?
It is a dizzying process, and I want to be clear that if you are doing this, try to grab somebody who's in your life who's really going to help you out. Same process for someone who is 65 or older. Are my drugs still covered? Are my doctors still covered? By the way, there are big insurance companies that pull out of Medicare wholesale, so you've got to go through this process. I will pay some special attention to the prescription drug plan Part D, because people who spend time looking at these drug plans are able to save about 5% in the subsequent year. Again, huge dollars on the line, Vlad.
Wow. Always great information, Jill. As always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
How is that the Nobel Prize for 2025 is going to be changing medicine forever? Let us see the news.
Defense system, the immune system, turning against you. What if your own protector became your worst enemy? Today, 3 scientists just won the 2025 Nobel Prize in Medicine because they found the key to stopping that from happening. The Nobel Committee announced that Mary E. Brunkow, Fred Ramsdell, and Shimon Sakaguchi will share this year's prize. Their research revealed how the body keeps its immune system under control, preventing it from attacking healthy cells. And that discovery has completely reshaped how doctors understand autoimmune diseases. Back in the late 1992, the 3 scientists were studying a mysterious group of immune cells called regulatory T cells, or TREGs. These cells act like peacekeepers, calming the immune system when it becomes too aggressive. At the heart of this discovery lies a single gene, FOXP3. When this gene fails, the immune system loses control, leading to diseases like type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, and even severe allergies. Thanks to their work, scientists now have new ways to treat and maybe even prevent autoimmune conditions. The same mechanisms are also being studied in cancer research to help the immune system attack tumors more precisely. In short, this discovery isn't just theory, it's changing real medicine right now. The prize comes with 11 million Swedish kronor. But the real reward is how their research is saving lives. Sakaguchi, from Japan, has spent decades exploring immune regulation. Ramsdell and Brunkow, from the US, discovered how the FOXP3 gene controls this delicate balance. Together, they've helped the world understand one of the most complex systems in biology, the human immune system itself. So the next time you hear about Nobel Prize winners, remember, these are the people helping your body protect itself. Not by fighting harder, but by knowing when to stop fighting. That's the true power of science. Not just discovering, but restoring balance.
As we all know it, October is the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Do you know that they find out how to read the mammograms with AI in a way that they be able to predict even cancer, breast cancer? So let us see the news.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It is the second leading cause of cancer deaths in women. About 1 in 8 will be diagnosed with the disease in their lifetime. And we're also seeing a rise in women under the age of 50 being diagnosed. That's why early screening and knowing if you're considered at risk can be life-saving. Mammograms have saved countless lives, but they aren't perfect. Now, some doctors are actually using AI technology as a tool to help them not only detect breast cancer, but also predict a woman's risk factors. I want to welcome in Dr. Connie Lehman. She's a breast imaging specialist at Mass General Brigham and the founder of Clarity, the first FDA-authorized AI platform used to help predict a woman's 5-year future risk of developing breast cancer. Dr. Lehman, thank you so much for being with us. So how does this technology work in detecting cancer before it's even formed?
Well, we're so excited about this. You know, there was a radiologist way back in the 1970s that thought he noticed mammograms in women who end up being diagnosed with breast cancer actually look different than mammograms in women who don't develop breast cancer. He wondered if we had powerful enough computers, could we pull that information out? I just wish he were alive today, because with AI, we can now do that. We can go far beyond breast density. Breast density is important. It can hide cancers. We need to be careful on how we talk to women about their breast density. But it's actually a very weak predictor of future breast cancer. And that's where AI comes in. AI and the power of computer vision can extract many more predictive elements than just the density and predict a woman's future risk of breast cancer.
40% of women are told that they have dense breasts. Can you tell us a little bit what that means to have a dense breast and how soon we could see this technology in all medical facilities?
So all women's breast tissue has two basic components. One is normal, healthy breast fat, and the other are these fibrous and glandular elements. And those show up as white on the mammogram, as we can see here, whereas the fat is more dark. It's like a gray color. And cancers tend to be white, so people refer to it as you're trying to find a white snowball in a white snowstorm when you have a cancer and a very dense breast. So the masking, the hiding of a cancer can be really important, but also there's a little bit of a bump up in risk if you have dense breast tissue. Turns out that bump up is very, very small. But when we use AI, we can really focus in and target those women with dense breast tissue who really are at increased risk and reassure those that we find are actually not at increased risk.
Now, there is some concern that AI may frankly be too good at its job and may detect tumors that are not life-threatening, and then a patient may go through the painful process of treating something that frankly didn't need to be treated at all. What do you say to that concern?
Yeah, we've been struggling and working on and focused on this idea of overdiagnosis, finding cancers that don't matter. So that's across the whole board. Obviously, our focus is to find cancers as early as possible when they can be cured. But we do think when we have a risk model like Clarity Breast, we can actually reduce the, quote, overdiagnosis because we're going to find the right kinds of patients to have the right kinds of tests. What I worry about is when we take expensive, new, invasive technologies and we suggest that all women need them or all women with dense breast tissue need them, when in fact we can be much more precise in how we direct women in that decision making so that those that are having more invasive, more aggressive screening and cancer prevention interventions are the right women.
Right now, the guidelines say that you need to start getting a mammogram or getting screened at the age of 40. With this new technology and its ability to detect cancer before it even starts, do you think that the guidelines may change and that women may start getting screened even earlier?
Absolutely. Until now, we really were very limited in how we recommended women start screening mammography. We've been arguing for a long time, is it 50 or 40? Most parts of the world, women don't start screening until 50. In the U.S., we now have pretty good agreement that we should start at 40. But what we know is the fastest rising group of breast cancer diagnoses are in women under 40. It's also the fastest rising group of metastatic breast cancer that can't be cured. We know that shock when we hear someone was diagnosed with breast cancer, but they were only 33. How is that possible? They were only 36. So we've done a lot as a healthcare community to identify women at high risk that should start screening in the 30s. Do they have a first-degree relative with breast cancer diagnosed before the age of 50? Do they have a genetic mutation? But we're missing the majority of women in their 30s being diagnosed with breast cancer. We just completed a study showing that we can identify 10% of women, 1 in 10, in their 30s that have a much higher risk of future breast cancer than women were screening in their 50s and 60s. So that's groundbreaking, and that's where we really see a future where we have a baseline at 30. We assess the woman's risk on that baseline mammogram at 30. We talk to her about her family history and her other health history, and then we put her on a plan to move safely through her 30s until she reaches 40 and starts average annual age 40 average risk-based screening.
Dr. Connie Lehman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am super excited because the FDA approved a lab test that can rule out Alzheimer's. That means that you can know ahead of time if you are prone to have the Alzheimer's or not. Let us see the news.
Could help rule out Alzheimer's is now cleared by the FDA. The test is designed for adults 55 years and older who are showing early signs of cognitive decline. It measures levels of a protein that's found in blood plasma in higher levels. It's connected to Alzheimer's and other brain diseases. Joining us to talk about that and other health topics is UW Health family medicine physician, Dr. Robert Friedel, or Dr. Bob, as we call him. Good afternoon, Dr. Bob.
Thanks for having me, Kim. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers. So this FDA test, is this something that you buy over the counter, or is this something that a doctor would administer?
Yeah, this is probably something more you would want to get through a doctor, but we're still kind of working on that. So a new blood test out there for dementia, with dementia being very common. More than 10% of adults over 65 end up with dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common form of that. So there's this new blood test out here now developed by a new company you can get a blood test. If you have this protein in your, if you don't have the protein in your blood, there's a very good chance, like a 98% chance, you don't have Alzheimer's. So yes, and this is the test that was just approved by the FDA. So the thing is, when these brand new tests come out and are getting approval, it doesn't necessarily mean that your doctor or your health system is going to have access to the test yet. And it also doesn't mean that your insurance is going to cover it yet. So there's still some steps that need to be taken. In addition to that, we do already have some ways of diagnosing Alzheimer's, and we'll have to see if this blood test will replace those.
What does a diagnosis, and especially an early diagnosis, mean for someone who has Alzheimer's?
Yeah, generally the sooner we can diagnose these things, the sooner we can intervene, and the bigger difference we can make in the outcome of the disease. So there's medications that can be used early in the disease to help delay the progression of Alzheimer's. There's also lifestyle things that you can do to help keep your brain thinking as sharp and as long as possible, even with an early diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So yes, early diagnosis does make a difference.
Okay, let's talk about young people. They're using alcohol and cannabis as sleep aids.
No, that's right. And sleep is something that's very, very important for our overall health. It touches every single part of our bodies, our brain, our memory, our heart health, our blood pressure, all of these things. And a lot of people have trouble with their sleep. And it turns out that young adults are turning more to things like cannabis and alcohol. So there was a study that was just posted in the Journal of the American Medical Association. They asked adults aged 19 through 30, are you using cannabis and alcohol? And if so, why? And it turns out 1 in 5 are using cannabis to help them sleep at night, and 1 in 14 are using alcohol to help them sleep. And those aren't necessarily healthy ways to fall asleep. So those are concerning numbers, Kim.
Yeah, it's something that you don't want to make a lifestyle choice, you know, for that to become your routine. And alcohol is very interesting because people say, oh yeah, I get sleepy. But then it kind of changes, and then it stimulates you.
Right. So they both have issues long term with your sleep. So cannabis, for example, yes, initially it can help people fall asleep and stay asleep, but that's only for the very short term. Then your body gets used to it and you need to use more and more and more to get the same effect on your sleep. And while you do that, it's going to be having the downsides on especially your REM sleep, which is important for your memory, your learning, and your emotions. And then alcohol itself is a sedative. Then sedation is not sleep. So it may help knock you out and feel like you're sleeping well, but actually you're not going to go into deep sleep as well. You're going to wake up more at night, and that's going to have harmful effects on your sleep. So Kim, you may have to think twice about that nightcap.
Makes sense. All right, Dr. Bob, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and go Brewers.
Go Brewers, Kim. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now let us have the top health news for the month of October. Let us see the news.
Your mental health impacts how well you recover from surgery, and a warning about an illness affecting newborns. Michael George has the day's top health stories.
Whooping cough, also known as pertussis, can be fatal for infants. A Children's Hospital of Chicago study found most children under 2 months of age who catch the disease end up hospitalized. Doctors say vaccination of mothers during pregnancy is critical because it protects infants from developing serious complications. Whooping cough is currently on the rise in the U.S. More Americans are dying from accidental drug-related injuries. A Duke University study found the rate of accidental overdose deaths has risen 60% in the last 5 years, with the biggest increase among middle-aged adults. Men are also most at risk, with their rate of deaths doubling that of women. The study's authors say we need to focus more on treating overdoses both inside and outside the home. People with depression have a more difficult recovery from surgery. An Ohio State University study found that post-surgery, patients with depression didn't recover as well as patients without depression. However, people who took antidepressants to treat their depression fared better. The study also found people with depression end up paying more money for post-surgical care. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Michael George, 2 News, Nevada.
So those are the health news for this month. Back to you, Veronique. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aida, for that beautiful health development. And we are witnessing a very good improvement on the health, not only in America, but worldwide. Thank you. Welcome back for all of those who stay tuned. Indeed, we are living a fast-paced, changing world. Far too much to catch up with within 24 hours, and how about a month? Well, I would like to end this month's monthly news report with notes beautifully penned by independent journalist Laura Aboli, end quote. As we begin to see things finally begin being exposed, I want to make sure that those that are now in charge understand that we don't want resignation, apology, or layoff. We want prosecution, we want jail time, and in some cases, we demand death sentences. We want justice. I am not just going to move on from the crimes against humanity that have been committed. I will not forgive and I will not forget, and neither should you. Millions of men, women, and children have been inanimate in the crossfire of senseless political wars. Children have been trafficked, raped, and sacrificed for perversion and financial gain. Communities have been ravaged by drugs designed to render people useless. Forest fire even have been engineered to further implement surveillance and control mechanisms. Our air, our food, and water have been poisoned to dumb us down, keep us docile and compliant. Education has been weaponized to psychologically abuse children by confusing them about their gender. Media and entertainment have been used as a tool of mind control. Mere propaganda machine designed to lie and promote wokeism and scientism. Laws have been passed to aid and promote pedophilia, gender transitioning, pornography, abortion, and euthanasia. Millions of illegal immigrants have been used as pawns in calculated strategy to destabilize our economies, break our society, endanger our population, destroy our identity, kills our tradition, and our sovereignty, and keep us divided and in conflict. Bioweapons have been created with the intention to depopulate the planet and debilitate us mentally and physically. And we have been lied to about everything to the detriment of our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The time has come to demand justice and set the example for the world to see that those without a soul will be treated precisely like that. I pray not only to see evil defeated, but to see that it gets what it deserves. Thank you very much, Laura Abogi, for that. This wraps up today's edition MBNK News Special Monthly Report on Global Headlines Update for the month of October 2025. Thank you for joining us in this journey. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more updates. Stay informed, stay updated, and stay safe out there. Signing off, MBNK.